Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All praises be unto the Most High Almighty Ahaya. This is the Essene Community Church of Christ. My name is Brother Shamar.
My name is Brother Jackson.
And we're bringing you your Shabbat report / lesson this week. All right. In this Shabbat report / lesson, we're going to be taking a look at the New Covenant. All right. And in this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at the Old Covenant in comparison to the New Covenant, and the Old Testament in comparison to the New Testament. And we're going to take an extensive look at the details and at the history and seeing if any changes happen in coming into the New Covenant and what exactly those were, if any at all. All right, and exactly the reason why a New Covenant came in. After this look into the Old and the New Covenants, we'll have a clear and better understanding of exactly what is the New Covenant and how we can move forward in it from this present time. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go right into it, all right? And this is an extensive lesson on the New Covenant. All right, so we're going to start at Isaiah 53:1.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 53, verse 1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Most High revealed?
All right, so who is going to believe the report that we're going to put out? All right, and it says, to whom is the arm of the Most High revealed? Going back to how the Most High operates, we know that he chooses a chosen person who reaches a certain state of purity. That person is chosen, and the Most High sends the word onto that person. The word of the Most High, which is Christ, reveals onto that person what was revealed onto Christ, and that person is sent out to declare, thus saith the Most High. A lot of times the people knew how the Most High operated in such secrecy, and that was the case how false prophets were able to come and saying that they seen the Most High, dealt with him in private, and they have certain visions or prophecies from him. All right. With that being said, we're not dealing with the Most High face to face, but we are going into our forefathers' records to make sure they're interpreted, translated, and taught correctly. All right. So with that being said, we're going to go right into it. All right. We're going to go to Genesis 17:7.
The book of Genesis, chapter 17, verse 7. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a power unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, and the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their power. And the Most High said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you.
All right. So here in the beginning in Genesis, we have Abraham, all right, being told that his seed and their generations are going to have an everlasting covenant. All right. And the Most High instructs Abraham that the covenant between me and you and your seed that we're going to have is that every man is going to be circumcised. All right. Just to take into note that this covenant with Abraham, the covenant of circumcision, wasn't given to anybody from his bloodline prior to that. All right. So this is the beginning of this whole custom of circumcision. All right. That was to be a sign from Abraham, sign from the Most High to Abraham to his kindred. All right. So just to note there that Abraham is the first one to receive this sign. And this is what Genesis is stating here, that the Most High made this covenant. And this covenant was to mark out exactly who's his people. All right. We're going to go into the definition of covenant in the Hebrew.
This is the definition of covenant out of the Strong's H1285, Berith, from H1262, in the sense of cutting, like H1254, a compact because made by passing between pieces of flesh, confederacy, confederate, covenant, league.
All right, so it's a compact. All right, a confederacy, a covenant, a league. All right, but it makes clear indication, a compact. So we're going to look at the definition of compact. All right, so the Most High is saying that he made a compact between him and Abraham. All right, so we're going to get a clear understanding of these terminologies that's being used. All right, so we're in the definition of compact.
It's a noun, compact, plural noun, compacts. A formal agreement or contract between two or more parties. Synonyms: treaty, pact, accord, agreement, contract, alliance, bargain, deal, settlement, covenant, indenture, concordant, protocol, intent, more, arrangement, understanding, pledge, promise, bond, rear engagement. They signed a compact between the United States. Verb, compact. Third person present, compacts. Past tense, compacted. Past participle, compacted. Gerund or present participle, compacting. Make or enter into a formal agreement with another party or parties. Quote, the Democratic Party compacted an alliance with dissident groups. The origin, late 16th century, from Latin compactum, past participle or compascici, from come with, make a covenant, compare with pact.
All right, so compact. Compact is a formal agreement or a contract between two or more parties. All right, so it's an agreement, but more importantly, it's a contract, and we're going to be kind of highlighting that term more. All right, than the agreement, because agreement, people is like agreement. Contract actually outlines exactly what the Most High is doing right here. So the Most High made a contract between him and Abraham that would eventually go down to the children of Yasharallah. All right. And we're going to see that the Most High then fulfills this promise, all right, of this contract to the people. All right, and it's going to happen in Exodus 19 and 4, where the Most High offers a contract to the children of Yasharallah. All right, so we're at Exodus 19 and 4.
Exodus 19 and 4. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you an eagle's wing, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. For all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Yasha'Allah. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Most High commanded him.
All right, so the Most High tells Yasharallah that he brought them out of Egypt. All right, you've seen what I did unto you. All right, and brought you out on eagle's wings. All right. He then says, if you obey my voice and keep my contract, then you're going to be a peculiar treasure above all people. All right. This part's not highlighted, but I want everybody to pay attention to this verse 6 here. And he says, ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. All right. I want everybody to take a note of that. The promise in the initial contract when it was given to us was that if we do the words of the Most High, we would be a full kingdom of priests. That means each person in the kingdom would be a priest. All right, if we keep the laws of the Most High. That's what this was stating here. All right, we shall be a kingdom of priests, not just one priesthood that's operating amongst the people, but us as a whole people would be a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. All right, and these are the words that he spoke to the children of Yasharallah. All right, so the Most High brought us a contract. All right, and told us that if we keep and obey the contract, our nation as a whole, everybody, all the men-child, would become priests, a kingdom of priests. All right, that was the initial agreement in the contract when it was given to us. All right, we're going to go to Exodus 19 and 8.
Exodus 19 and 8. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Most High had spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Most High.
All right, so right here, Israel accepts the contract of the Most High. All right, so Moses is the one, is like the agent. All right, who's coming in between the Most High and the children of Yasharallah, and he's bringing the contract to them. He read it to them, and the people tells them, yeah, all that's there in there, we're going to do. And then Moses goes back and returns this word to the Most High. So if we know, if we're dealing with the law of contract, we know how that is. That is agreement in a contract. All right, that's a formal agreement. Actually, no. What do they call that? A oral agreement.
It's binding.
Oh yeah. All right. So this is just orally. Moses is going back to say, yeah, they agreed. So it's still not officially here yet. All right. We're gonna go to Exodus 24:6.
The book of Exodus 24:6. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in a basin, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Most High hath said we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Most High hath made with you concerning all these words.
All right. So here we have the Most High. Moses has the blood, and I'm going to tell you this is actual blood, all right? This is not an injection, and as we go through the whole thing, you'll see the reason why Moses was told to do this, even though they didn't agree with the whole killing of animals or all of that. That had to have been done. That had to be done there, all right? Moses took the blood, and he took the book of the covenant, and he read the book in the audience. And they, once again, confirmed, because before it was just an oral agreement, all right? It wasn't written in principle yet. It wasn't agreed upon in principle, all right? So now they say it again that we're going to do it and we're going to be obedient, all right? Moses takes the blood, he sprinkles it on the people, and says, behold, the blood of the covenant, all right? So just like how the natives show that, when they were signing contracts or whatever, they written it with blood. They wrote it with blood, all right? So that's a custom that we had. When it's with blood, that makes it official. So at this moment now, the contract that the Most High offers Yasharallah is official. And under this contract, initial contract, if we followed what the Most High was telling us, we would become a full nation of priests. All right, we're going to go to Exodus 31:18.
Exodus 31:18. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, two tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of the Most High.
All right, so the Most High gave Moses the 2 tables of testimony. He gave him the 10 commandments, all right? And the statutes that was under them, all right? He gave them that. That was all he gave them. All right, so they have that. That's the laws that they were to follow. All right, we're going to go to Exodus 32:6.
Exodus 32:6. And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose up to play. And the Most High said unto Moses, go, get thee down, for thy people which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves.
All right, so here we see that they rose up early on the morrow, and Moses is up there dealing with the Most High, getting more instructions because he's up there for the 40 days. All right, and they've corrupted themselves down there. All right, so the initial contract that they got, they went once Moses put the blood on them, we were under the contract and we're binded by that contract. All right, now just right after that binding of the contract, Moses is up there and he's being told that we corrupted ourselves down there. All right. Continue for us.
Verse 8. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them.
All right. And listen to what he says. They turned aside quickly out of the way. So you just went into the contract. All right. That's like you getting a home now and you're leasing, you're renting it, and the person's like, yeah, the first month, in the first week, you broke the stipulations of the rental agreement. All right. How angry was somebody going to be? You just got in there. You didn't even, nothing happened yet. Nothing. All right. He's telling them they quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. All right. Read us verse 8 again.
Verse 8. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
All right. So he says they quickly have turned aside. all right, and made the molten calf and all of that. So right away, they are broken, all right. They went outside of the agreement because they're not keeping the law. Right as they went into it, they turned aside quickly, all right. We're going to go to Exodus 32 and 14.
Exodus 32 and 14. And the Most High repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people. And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides, on the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of the Most High, and the writing was the writing of the Most High, graven upon the tables.
All right, so Moses turned down and went down from the mount with the 2 tables, all right, which were in his hand, all right. The tables written on both of the sides, all right. And the table was the work of the Most High. And this was the original contract that that Moses had in his hand, all right, that the Most High written down in the 10 Commandments, and he wrote additional instructions on the backs, all right. So we're going to go to Exodus 32 and 19.
Exodus 32 and 19. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing. And Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands, and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made, and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strewed it upon the water, and made the children of Yasha'Allah drink of it.
All right, so Moses' anger waxed hot, all right, and he cast the tables out of his hands, and he broke it, all right. A lot of people go to there and they look at that, but, you know, as Hebrew Israelites, we never really paid attention to what's happening here, all right, when it comes to the law of contract, all right. So Moses knows he handed out a contract. He's like the agent, that one that's dealing with the mediation with the contract. He knows he gave them to him. They were binded by it when he put the blood on, and quickly they broke it, all right. So them breaking the contract now, Moses breaking the commandments and breaking the tablets, that's Moses breaking the contract, because the contract is broken by Yasharallah. As quickly as they went into the contract with the Most High, they broke it. They didn't even get to observe anything of the initial contract covenant that the Most High gave them. All right, and this is a key part to understand, that the initial contract we were under with the Most High, with the commands that we were given, was broken right away. All right, we did not, as a people, get to flourish in them. All right, it was broken right here. And this, under the law of contract, this is called a breach of contract. So we're going to go into the definition of a breach of contract and what exactly that is.
Breach of contract. Under the law, a violation of contract is called a breach. And it means that one of the parties did something they should not have done, or failed to do something they were required to do, under the terms of the agreement. A breach of contract or agreement can be grounds for a civil lawsuit, regardless of whether the contract was oral or written.
All right, so it shows you a breach of contract means one of the parties did something they weren't supposed to do or failed to do, which we seen that with Yasharallah, they made the calf right away and breached the contract. All right, continue for us, and that's with the that's regardless if the contract's oral or written. The Most High didn't even just take it orally. He took it and they wrote it down and signed it with the blood. All right. So he did both of them. So there's no excuse, because you know how when you're dealing with contracts, some people's like, hey, well, I didn't, in this world we have some people that say, I just said it to you. I didn't write it down. But when you do both of them now, what can you say? All right. So both was done. All right. Continue for us.
Breach of contract is a legal cause of action in a type of civil wrong, in which a binding agreement or bargain for exchange is not honored by one or more of the parties to the contract by non-performance or interference with the other party's performance. Breach occurs when a party to a contract fails to fulfill its obligations as described in the contract, or communicates an intent to fail the obligation of otherwise appears not to be able to perform its obligation under the contract. Where there is a breach of contract, the resulting damages will have to be paid by the party breaching the contract to the aggrieved party.
All right, so when you breach the contract, you have to pay back now. All right. right? There's consequences for that. All right. We're going to go to ways of breaching a contract. All right.
Ways of breaching a contract. A breach of contract may take place when a party to the contract fails to perform the obligations under the contract in whole or in part, behaves in a manner which shows an intention not to perform their obligation under contract in the future, or contract becomes impossible to perform as a result of the defaulting party's own act. These classifications only describe how a contract can be breached, not how serious the breach is. The first type above is an actual breach of contract. The second two types are technically known as renunciatory breaches, in the sense that the defaulting party renunciates the contract in advance of the time they are required to perform their obligations. Renunciatory breach is more commonly known as anticipatory breach.
All right. So we're not dealing with that breach, but it's good to know about that. All right. But the breach of contract takes place when the party to the contract fails to perform their obligation. All right. So the children of Yasharallah breached the contract. In breach of contract, when you breach a contract, the person is now able to if they're in the fine print, once you breach now, there's penalties to be paid. There's this extra cost. All these things now could be given. All right. Penalties come when you breach a contract. All right. So we're going to see how the Most High penalizes Yasharallah in their breach of contract, because now that they breached the contract, the Most High has all rights now to render penalty that's in the fine print. All right. If we go back to the fine print, the Most High said what? If you do this, you're going to be a kingdom of priests. If not, it's going to be the other way. All right. So we're going to see how the Most High reconstructs the contract under this breach that Yasharallah did right away, might I add. All right. So we're at Ezekiel 20 and 22.
Ezekiel 20 and 22. Nevertheless, I withdrew my hand and wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, in whose sight I brought them forth. I lifted up mine hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen, and disperse them through the countries. Because they had not executed my judgments, but had despised my statutes, and had polluted my Sabbaths, and their eyes were after their fathers' idols. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, and judgments whereby they should not live.
All right, so he says, I gave them statutes that were not good, and judgments whereby they should not live. All right, so the Most High reconstructs the contract, and we know that Moses went up and came back with a different contract, all right, than the initial one. All right, so the Most High is saying, I gave them statutes that were not good. And this is a point that everybody needs to pay attention to, all right? The statutes that the Most High gave Yasharallah, it says in the scriptures, are not good. And the judgments that he gave under those statutes are judgments where they ain't going to live by, all right? Continue for us. Read 25 and continue for us again.
Verse 25. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, and judgments whereby they should not live. And I polluted them in their own gifts, in that they caused to pass through the fire all that openeth the womb, that I may make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am the Most High.
All right. So he says, I polluted them in their own gifts. All right. And the KJV Masoretic text is not quite clear here. All right. So we're going to go into the Septuagint, the Breton Septuagint in Ezekiel 20 and 23 there, and read what it says there. And it's going to make this scripture even more clear what he's stating here.
Ezekiel 20 and 23 out of the Septuagint. I lifted up mine hand against them in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the Gentiles, and disperse them in the countries, because they kept not mine ordinances, and rejected my commandments, and profaned my Sabbaths, and their eyes went after the imaginations of their fathers. Verse 25. So I gave them commandments that were not good, and ordinances in which they should not live. And I will defile them by their own decrees, when I pass through upon every one that opens the womb, that I may destroy them.
All right, so the Most High rendered a judgment. He tells us what he did when they were in the wilderness and they came out and did all of that, and you never kept the Sabbath? Because they were trying to keep the Sabbath before they went in the land, and they were failing. All right? They've been failing. They never at one point succeeded in anything. All right? So the Most High says, when he gave them the initial contract, now they broke it, and Moses broke it and had to go back and get a next one, he gave them commandments that were not good. Ordinances that they should not live. That means all the customs that came under the Old Testament, he's declaring are not good. And he said, by your own laws, by your own decrees, I'm going to defile you. So by the own laws that I give you, these are going to defile you. All right, this is something us as a nation have to understand when it comes to regard to the Old Testament. All right. We're going to go to Jeremiah 31:1. All right. We're going to see what he says about the new contract that was promised to come eventually.
Jeremiah 31:1, the new covenant. Behold, the days come, saith the Most High, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasha'Allah and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Most High. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasha'Allah after those days, saith the Most High. I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and I will be their power, and they shall be my people.
All right, so the Most High, through Jeremiah here, is saying, I'm going to make a new covenant, all right, with the house of Yasharallah and with the house of Judah. Not according to the covenant I made with their fathers in the day that he took them out in the wilderness, all right? So under this contract, when we're dealing with contract-wise, and someone gives you a contract, and he gave it to them in the old one, and we know he gave them bad ones after, he's saying now in this new one, it's not going to be according to anything under that contract when we're dealing with contract now. All right? When someone tells you, hey, the next contract, none of this stuff is going to be on. It's going to be a new contract. That's what they're telling you. You're not expecting anything on the prior contract to be on there. You're expecting different rules, stipulations, or reformed contract, not the one that contrasts the same one. All right? And this was the promise that was given. All right? 32 says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they broke. That same covenant that they broke there. All right? But this is the covenant he's going to make after those days. He's going to put the law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts. All right? And this is going to be a key part as well. What does he mean by he's going to write the law in our hearts now? Because there's something he did with the law in the Old Testament. All right? And as we go along, it'll be explained. All right? But key things to note off of Jeremiah 31, a new covenant, all right, is coming. And it's not going to be the same rules or stipulations as the old contract, all right. The old rules in the old covenant was broken, all right. They broke the rules and agreements, all right. And no more of the actual law, but he's saying the law he's going to place in the heart, in the spirit of the person, all right? And we're going to get a more understanding of this in Hebrews 10:1.
Hebrews 10:1. For the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually, make the comers thereunto perfect. For then would they not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshippers once purged should have no more conscience of sins. But in those sacrifices there is a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins.
All right. So it says, for the law having a shadow of the good things to come, and not the very image of the things. All right, when you see a shadow, if you're walking by and you see a shadow on the wall, the shadow is a reflection of you, but is the shadow you? All right, someone tells you that that's you, that's not you. All right, it's just an image of the actual thing. It's not the actual thing. All right, that's what he was telling us, that the law is. The law given in the old covenant, because we broke it, he's like, okay, you're not going to be a kingdom of priests now. He gave us bad laws now, bad stipulations. stipulations that make you have to go kill animals, do all of these things. All of those things that was an image. Pardon me?
Sorry, penalties.
Yeah, penalties, all right? Bad penalties, all right? To make people have to actually... Oh, that's not my thought there. But sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, bad penalties, all right? And stipulations that the Most High be called, that weren't the actual thing. All right? Read Hebrews 10:1 for me again.
Hebrews 10:1. For the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never, with those sacrifices which they offered year by year, continually, make the comers thereunto perfect.
All right? So he's showing you that it was a shadow of the good things. It was a mirror. It was not the actual things. All right? All the things in the old covenant were never the actual thing that it represented. All right? They were all just mirror reflections of the actual thing. All right? So when you see someone walk around and you see their shadow, are you going to talk or deal with the person's shadow, or are you going to deal with the actual person? All right, this is how we have to kind of look at this. This is what Christ is coming to tell us in the New Testament, all right? That the old things, and this is the thing with the Jews they were addicted to that, even though it was a shadow. That's to show you how great the Most High's light is, because when you're given the shadow of the light, you think that that is so righteous and good, and cannot see that it's a shadow and that there's more light ahead. All right, that's just the reflection of the good thing. The reflection of the good thing looks so good that the Jews are addicted to it, that they are thinking that these are the righteous things. And that's what Hebrews 10:1 was showing, that everything under the old covenant was a shadow. We're going to go to the definition of shadow, all right?
Definition of shadow from the Strong's G4639. Skia, apparently a primary word, shade or shadow. Literally or figuratively, darkness of error or an adumbration, shadow.
All right, so the Strong's for shadow is darkness of error or an umbration, a shadow. All right, first of all, it says darkness of error. So first of all, it's showing you that the law having darkness of error of the good things to come, but not the very thing. So these things was error. That's what it means by shadow. These were errors that mirrored the true thing. But that's how great the Most High is, that he could use an error and it could point you to the right way if you're looking properly. All right? He's the great artist. He's the one that could design things like that. All right? So from an error, he was able to still direct us and use the error in a law to direct us and bring it towards him. All right? So we're going to go to the definition of adumbration.
Definition of adumbration. 1550s, faint sketch, imperfect representation. From Latin, adumbrationem, nominative adumbratio, a sketch in shadow, sketch, outline. Noun of action from past participle, stem of adumbrare, to cast a shadow, overshadow. In painting, represent a thing in outline. From ad to, see ad umbrare, to cast a shadow. From pi root, adhu, blind, dark, see umbrage.
All right, so adumbration is a faint sketch, an imperfect representation. All right, a sketch in a shadow, an outline, an overshadow. All right, to represent a thing in outline. All right, so this was a faint sketch, an imperfect representation. The Old Testament law was an imperfect representation of the Most High's true laws. And we're not just talking about the statutes, we're talking about even the feast days. We're talking about the whole thing under the Old Testament. The whole thing. Everything that was given to Yasharallah. Everything that we as Hebrew Israelites have come to appreciate. All right? Was all evil, according to the Most High. It's all error that mirrored their true things that was to come eventually. All right, we're gonna go to the early church father Augustine of Hippo. All right, and he's gonna give us an understanding of the Old Testament laws were just temporary signs.
Augustine of Hippo on Christian Doctrine, Book 3, Chapter 6, Utility of the Bondage of the Jews. Verse 10. This bondage, however, in the case of the Jewish people, differed widely from what it was in the case of other nations, because though the former were in bondage to temporal things, it was in such a way that in all these the one power was put before their minds.
All right, so this bondage that the Most High put us in with these commandments, all right, they're so different because even though these are temporal things, carnal things, the way the Most High put it in front of us and put it on us, they always reminded us of the Most High. So if you keep them all the time and you're studying it all the time, you'll be able to see past the blindfold, what the Most High is giving you there, all right? That's how that bondage is. So if you study it and you do it, just like how we're doing it now, and we're going through the records and we're seeing the truth of the records and the deepness of it, this is what it's supposed to do if you're actually going to keep them with a pure heart. All right? So they were in bondage to these temporal laws of the Old Testament in such a way that the Most High ordinanced it and put these Old Testament laws in a way before them that always reminded them of the Most High and the true things of the Most High, but not actually the things of the Most High. All right? Start from because again.
Because, though the former were in bondage to temporal things, it was in such a way that in all these the one power was put before their minds. And although they paid attention to the signs of spiritual realities in place of the realities themselves, not knowing to what the signs referred, still they had this conviction rooted in their minds that in subjecting themselves to such a bondage, they were doing the pleasure of the one invisible power of all.
All right, so even though they were dealing with these spiritual realities in the form of temporal things, all right, this conviction was rooted in their mind, and then doing this, they were subjecting themselves to the bondage that the Most High put them in, and the Most High would be happy with that because at least they're doing it to the Most High instead of these idols and all of that. At least you're in bondage keeping these false laws that represent the Most High, then you outside doing whatever you want to do. All right, and that's what the Old Testament laws and customs represented. All right, they were bondage, but the Most High had pleasure because you were doing them to Him and mirroring the true things. So He could at least start somewhere. All right, continue for us.
And the apostle describes this bondage as being like to that of boys under the guidance of a schoolmaster.
All right, so that bondage, having that law there was like having a teacher there that's schooling you every day. And then one day you get old, you don't need the teacher no more. The teacher's not telling you nothing. You don't need no word. You don't need to take nothing from that. You're your own man now. You can stand on your own 2 feet and do these things on your own. So the law was never to always be there with you. It's like a school teacher. Eventually you leave the school. When's the last time someone went to school and dealt with the teacher? All right, that's how you should be looking at the Old Testament laws. When's the last time you went, you're like, what do I need a teacher for? I'm good. We're bigger than the teacher. The teacher going to teach me what? The teacher was good to school you into the truth, you know, and grow you up into a good way, assist you. That's all that she's there for. That's all the Old Testament law was there for, till you reach the true way. All right, continue for us.
And those who clung obstinately to such signs could not endure our Lord's neglect of them when the time for their revelation had come. And hence their leaders brought it as a charge against Him that He healed on the Sabbath. And the people clinging to these signs as if they were realities could not believe that one who refused to observe them in the way of the Jews was the Most High, or came from the Most High.
All right, so this is the problem that they had with Christ. When Christ came, He started to neglect everything of the Old Testament and do what it mirrored. And if you have the love of the Old Testament laws, you're like, yo, what are you doing? You're doing on this on the feast day, and He's doing the actual thing. And because they have the love of the mirrored thing, they think He's doing evil. All right, that's like us to go out now and tell the Hebrews, oh, all your feast days evil. All this is, they're going to be like, what are you guys talking about? Oh, you're a Hebrew too. You can't be the chosen people. You can't be the chosen church when you're talking about the Old Testament like this. That's how they were looking at it when Christ came, when He's trying to show them those were temporal things. Those were evil things. You're not understanding what your forefathers did. You're not understanding that you broke the contract, and under the new contract, they were all evil things. You broke the contract. Yes, when I gave you initially, you're supposed to be a kingdom of priests. The first sign should be you guys only have Levites as priests. We're supposed to be a kingdom of priests. We only had the Levitical priesthood. The whole kingdom, it says, should be priests. So that was the first sign that when we broke it under the calf and you only made the Levites priests, that we're not under the same covenant. We're under different stipulations and the rules because we broke one. You refined it because of the breach. All right? Continue for us again. Read from Anda again, and the people, the last.
And the people, clinging to these signs as if they were realities, could not believe that one who refused to observe them in the way of the Jews did was God or came from God. But those who did believe, from among whom the first church at Jerusalem was formed, showed clearly how great an advantage it had been to be so guided by the schoolmaster that signs, which had been for a season imposed on the obedient, fixed the thoughts of those who observed them on the worship of the one power who made heaven and earth. These men, because they had been very near to spiritual things, for even in the temporal and carnal offerings and types, though they did not clearly apprehend the spiritual meaning, they had learned to adore the one eternal power, were filled with such a measure of the Holy Spirit that they sold all their goods and laid their price at the apostles' feet to be distributed among the needy, Acts 4:34-35, and consecrated themselves wholly to the Most High as a new temple, of which the old temple they were serving was but the earthly type.
All right, so in here it's showing you that the first initial church which the Hebrews were a part of, there were some who were dealing with these old laws and they didn't know nothing about the spirituality of it, but they were dealing with it obediently. And these people, when they were dealing with it obediently, and when you deal it with a good heart, and you're just showing a little, because that's all Christ did, show them a little, immediately the blinders flick on, because you've been studying the stuff all the time. You just didn't know, but once you're showing it, you switch over. That's the same thing that's happening here to us as a church. Once we're studying the stuff, and we're like, okay, we got a hunch here, it's revealed to us. But the Hebrews who don't study the scriptures with a pure heart, they can't see it because they're not seeing the same things here. So when Christ came, those Hebrews who were studying it with a pure heart, who were under the Essenes, they were able to make the switch right away. Like, oh, it's deeper than, okay. They're able to see it. The other Hebrews, because they haven't been studying or whatever, they're blinded. They don't know. This is the key thing about studying this stuff, because it could just be, Christ just had to come and they knew, they were already studying to know these things. All right, the Hebrews that weren't, it showed at that time because they didn't know scriptures to be like, oh, this is this, this is that. They didn't have the precepts down, so they couldn't see that. The ones that had the precepts down, John and them was like, yo, I know, this is Christ. Because you're figuring stuff out as it goes. You're like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing this. He broke it down like, yo, I know it's you, Christ. And he's like, yo, you're blessed because no man told you this. All right, you were able to break this down on yourself. You're seeing, you're paying attention. All right, continue for us.
Verse 11. Now it is not recorded that any of the Gentile churches did this, because men who had for their gods idols made with hands had not so near to spiritual things.
All right, so with the children of Yasharallah, they were dealing with idols and stuff. The Most High gave them bad laws that mirrored the true laws. All right, and they were dealing with their stuff with that. But the Gentiles never had that at all, so it was harder for them to switch over to the spirituality because they never had a crutch. They never had a system where we're like, oh, we're studying the Sabbath, we're dealing with it, but it's not the true Sabbath. We're dealing with the real one now, or the eternal one, the spiritual one. They never had any of that, so it was harder for them. So Yasharallah, the Most High, made it easier for them because they had things that mirrored it, that all you have to do was make the switch over. You've been practicing the wrong way for all the time, but you just have to make the switch over. The Gentiles never had that. All right? We're going to go to Hebrews 8:1.
Hebrews chapter 8, verse 1. Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest, who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Most High pitched, and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore is of necessity that this man have some what also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law, who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of the Most High when he was about to make the tabernacle.
All right, so it shows you that he's not one of these earthly priests, because the earthly priests were dealing with the shadow of the heavenly things, all right, that Moses gave to them, all right, not the true things. They were dealing with the error of the things, not the true way. The Most High gave them the shadow, not the true thing, just the shadow. It mirrored it, but it's still evil, even though it mirrors the true thing, all right. It's the shadow, and it shows you that shadow is error, all right. Continue.
For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant.
All right, so he's the mediator of a better covenant. Moses was mediating this bad covenant, this bad contract with Yasharallah. And Yasharallah is known for dealing with bad contracts and not knowing they're in a bad contract. Just look at the music business. Look at the NBA. Look at the NFL. We're constantly going into contract and not knowing what the contract's about.
This is why they have agents.
They have agents. They need agents, all that. Moses is dealing with. And Moses is on the Most High side. So the whole time, they blindside Yasharallah. Because you had an agent that's not telling you the whole truth. The agent was dealing with the Most High. Moses is dealing with the Most High. So when he came and gave them a different contract, your agent is not in their best interest. The agent was in the best interest of the Most High. So that's how they got slipped a different contract. And you didn't pre-read the contract to be like, yo, this contract is different. It's, you know, you didn't know the whole time. The whole time the Most High's playing you like a fool. Like, all right, you know what? I'm going to get the Levites. Yeah, the Levites. Like, you just didn't remember. He said, I'm going to make you a kingdom of priests. And now you're happy that Levites are there. So the whole time they're playing this game on them. Yasharallah doesn't understand contractual agreements. Even to this day. And then they'll tell you, come in the contract. Yo, come be a rapper. Come. You know, everyone wants to be that now, right? And they always tell you the contract, oh, I make pennies on the dollars. But somehow they're still hyping it up like it's a good thing. This is what Yasharallah is doing even with the truth. Come be a Hebrew. Come to the contract, the bad contract. Come in there. Now you in the game and you going down now. You thought it was all pretty, the orange, the gear, all of that, the fringes. This is what they do. This is what Christ is talking about. All right, they do not understand these things. It's in our ways. It's in our spirit. People are still dealing with us with contract. When the enemy's coming out, they deal with us. Contract. Oh, here, look at this. All right. Yasharallah's fool. Done. Contract forever. And it's a binding contract. It's always long, too. It's always long. You're never coming out of that.
So the Christians have a piece of the truth.
Oh, yeah. Christians have
a lot of them apologizing.
we have a
sense. Yes.
It's a lot of apologizing. All right. We're not to apologize. It's just understanding. Because we didn't have the recollection. We didn't have the memory. All right, but now we're seeing that, hey, we got duped a bad contract. Moses was the mediator. He's on the Most High side, and your agent was on the other side. That's like you going to sign in with a team, and the agent and the team is in cahoots, and you don't know that. And they slipped you a contract like, yo, don't worry, they messed up. And you don't know, and you go, yeah, thinking your agent's all for you, and you sign the contract, not knowing that they had an agreement behind there to fool you. That's what happened with Yasharallah. All right, they got slipped a bad contract, a bad covenant, and they don't know that, and they don't even want to come out of it.
There's 600 and something stipulations.
Right? How much stipulations on the covenant?
You gotta do this, can't you do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this, you should do that.
This is the stuff. All right, give us verse 5 again. Hebrews 8 and 5.
Hebrews 8 and 5. Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses, who was admonished of the Most High, when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Most High, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yasharallah and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and regarded them not, saith the Most High.
All right. So we said, if the first covenant had been faultless, then there would be no need for a new. So you guys don't understand that, the first one's fault. If the Most High is dealing with attorney, he doesn't deal with mistakes and have to give you a new one, or why would he need a new one? There's a reason why he had to give you another one. Because first of all, he was giving you the right one. You broke it. He had to give you a next one. Now you're in need of a new one. But you don't understand that. You don't understand that there's a fault in your contract. Because why would the Most High, why would you need another one? Why would the Most High promise another one through Jeremiah? All right, but there's fault in that covenant. All right, and the new covenant that he said is not going to be according to that old contract. So do not expect anything of that old contract. And that's what they couldn't understand when Christ came. All right, give us verse 10.
Verse 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasha'Allah after those days, saith the Most High. I will put my laws in their mind, and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a power, and they shall be to me a people.
All right, so this is what he's saying, and this is part not underlined, but I want everybody to take a note of this part right here, because we're probably going to ask a question on this one right here. All right, he gave them, when he's saying he put their laws in their mind and their heart, before he gave them the image of the thing, so he gave them laws that represented it, not the actual thing. And this one, he's putting the actual things in us, like don't do the representation of the thing, do the actual thing, which connects to the spiritual thing. So now the law will be in you instead of, oh, you know what, get unleavened bread and do this. You're actually taking the thing out of you, the sin out of you, not the unleavened. Who cares about the unleavened bread? Unleavened bread is unleavened bread.
So him writing it on stone represent you guys have a heart of stone, so I'm going to put this on stone too.
Put this on thing. Now under this one, it's coming in your heart now. Why are you dealing with unleavened bread? And why you need that carnal thing to represent that? You should know unleavened bread is cleansing out the sin out of you. That's unleavened bread. That's the true unleavened bread. Cleanse out yourself. That's the real thing. All right? That's the law now being in you. Focus on that. Don't focus on, I'm eating the Most High's unleavened bread, That is carnal.
The whole thing that he gave us was simple in the first place. He gave it to them because they were making things complicated. He made it more complicated.
He made it more, and he's like, you don't deserve the actual thing. All right? Continue for us.
Verse 11. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Most High, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. And that he saith, A new covenant he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away.
All right, so he says a new covenant has made the first one old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish. The old, everything in that old covenant is ready to vanish. It's ready to vanish. And now we can even see, and this is what I'm telling you, it's getting crazy, we can see why even the Christians now, they took out the Old Testament out of the Bible, because that's how important it is. They knew that it was evil, and the whole time we're like, why would they do that? Why would they take it out? Why would they? They know that everything in there would just the same thing the Hebrews are doing now. They would read it and then they'll be addicted to it, knowing that that's not the true law. All right, so they've been trying to separate from the old covenant. All right, and we as Hebrews been rushing back into the bad contract because we're coming out of amnesia and we're just going back to the beginning. We're like, I want to go back to the beginning, right? We're going to go to the night the New Testament was officially valid. All right, this is 1 Corinthians 11:23.
1 Corinthians 11, verse 23. For I have received of the Most High that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yeshua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it, and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye, as oft as ye drink it, in remembrance of me.
All right, so at that moment, that's when he made that contract official that night. So everything they were doing prior up to that moment was all under the old covenant. So in the New Testament, a lot of people try to go there and be like, oh, you see, Christ was doing this and that. That's from the old covenant. That all leads up. He's doing old covenant things all the way up right before the night he's going in to die. All right. So at that night, that's when you would have to look at the disciples and see what they're doing that's different. Because up until that time, they're going to be doing old covenant things. They were revisiting some of those things. All right. Like we've seen them doing. All right. We're going to go into the definition of testament in the Greek.
This is the definition of testament, Strong's G 1242, Deathke, from G 1303, properly a disposition, that is specifically a contract, especially a divisory will, covenant, testament.
All right. So it's a contract. All right. A covenant, a testament. A testament is still a contract. So the scripture should say, it's an old contract and new contract. But they kind of fool us when they say testament. All right? Testament doesn't make people understand your old contract, new contract. Because now if you hear contract, you can now look at the stuff in a different light with contract. Let me look at the law of contract. This is the old contract, new contract. When you're looking at testament, you're like thinking, oh, this is the old testimony or this is new. Like it kind of confuses people. Contract makes it clear. Contract, dealing. Old contract, new contract. Different than when you hear testament, like, oh, it's testimony or is it, it doesn't make it clear for the person when they're taking it in this modern world we live in. When you hear contract, it makes it very clear now what we're looking at, an old contract. Now, if he says you're not dealing with the old contract now, that would be a reason to put away that whole book now because that's the old contract. All right, when it comes to dealing with, I want to, live like this and follow these things. That's under old contract. So you'd want to look at the newer contract now that you understand this is contracts. All right, the definition of contract.
The definition of contract, it's a noun, plural noun, contracts. A written or spoken agreement, especially one concerning employment, sales, or tenancy, that is intended to be enforceable by law. Quote, both parties must sign employment contracts. The synonyms, agreement, commitment, arrangement, settlement, understanding, compact, covenant, bond, deal, bargain, indenture, quote, a legal binding contract, the branch of law concerning with the making and observation of contracts. Middle English via Old French from Latin, contractus, from contract, drawn together, tightened, from the verb contrahere, from con, together, to hair, draw.
So contract, all right, a written or spoken agreement, especially one concerning employment, sales, tenancy, all right, an agreement. So there's a new contract. So in the New Testament, we have to now begin to find out what's the new stipulations under this new contract. Because when we're looking at New Testament, or when you're looking at what we're doing now, and the stipulations of everything we're doing, we're looking at the old covenant. When you're going to tell somebody follow a law, where are you going to go to? How much people just go into the new covenant or in the people who's dealing with the new covenant in the New Testament and looking for the law? Every law that Hebrews that we've been trying to deal with has been going to the Old Testament and trying to push those laws on people when that's under the old covenant, that's under the old contract. All right, we're going to go to Hebrews 7 and 14, and we're going to look at Christ, the eternal law and priest. All right.
Hebrews chapter 7, verse 14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. And it is yet far more evident, for that after the similitude of Melchizedek there ariseth another priest, who is made, not after the law of carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life.
All right. So it shows you Christ is not made after the law of the carnal commandment. In the Old Testament, all of those, the feast days, the statutes, all of them is carnal commandments. All right. Christ, when he came to the spiritual, the ones that actually give you life. All of those other ones was bringing people to death. If you look at the Hebrews, the more they keep the feast days, the more they keep the statutes, the more they're getting sicker, the more they're getting bigger, the more they're all of these things. We live these things. All right. Now, the more you come this way, the only you could get better. You could only get health. You can only get this if you're practicing these things. The other way, the more you do, the more feast day, the more you do, you're only going to get sicker and sicker and sicker, and you're only going into death if you look at them. All All right, Christ is not after that carnal commandment. They didn't understand they were being punished by being given those laws. All right, continue for us.
Verse 17. For he testifieth, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. For there is verily a disannulling of the commandment going before for the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. For the law made nothing perfect, but the bringing in of a better hope did, by the which we draw nigh unto the Most High.
All right, so the law make nothing perfect. These Hebrews that's keeping the laws in the Old Testament, as much as we're keeping those laws, you can never be perfect. You can never reach the Essene mind state. And that's why they're not even here. They're not even close. Go look at them. Every day they get up, forefathers, Jacob, Isaac, Esau, the pottage, fringes. None of these things is bringing them to perfection, making them better, making them more disciplined. All right, it's the spiritual things that we've been dealing with some of the spiritual things, but we've been incorporating it with the Old Testament. So we've been doing both of them joined together. So we've been doing the spiritual things that we've seen in the Essenes and in the New Testament, but we've been joining it with the Old Testament, keeping the feast days, keeping the things, keeping all the stipulations that was given under the Old Covenant. All right, continue for us.
And inasmuch as not without an oath he was made priest, for those priests were made without an oath, but this with an oath by him that said unto him, the Most High swear, and I will not repent. Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. By so much was Yeshua made a surety of a better testament, and they truly were many priests, because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death. But this man, because he continueth ever, hath an unchangeable priesthood.
All right, so he shows you that Christ became the surety of a better contract. So Christ came to give us a better contract. All right, and in the old contract, there was many priests. All right, because they all were going to die. So they always had to have new priests. So that means the priesthood was always changing because they always died. But in this priesthood, Christ never dies. So the priesthood never going to change. It's always going to be Christ running the priesthood. All right, we're at 2 Corinthians 3.
2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 1. Do we begin again to command ourselves? Or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? Ye are our epistles written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistles of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living power, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. And such trust have we through Christ to the Most High Word. Not that we were sufficient of ourselves to think anything as ourselves, but our sufficiency is of the Most High, who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life.
All right, so he made them able ministers of the new contract, not of the letter, which means not of the written contract that you had back in the days, all right, but of the spiritual contract, all right, because the letter, the one that was in the Old Testament that killed everything, it killed everybody. Anybody sinned against it, did anything, they had to die. The animals died, everything died under that old one, all right. This one give life, everything lives under this contract, all right. Continue.
Verse 7. But if the ministration of death, written and engraved in stones, was glorious, so that the children of Yasha'Allah could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses for the glory of his countenance, which glory was to be done away, how shall not the ministration of the Spirit be rather glorious? For if the ministration of condemnation be glory, much more doth the ministration of righteousness exceed in glory.
All right, so we're showing you that ministration was the ministration of death. That whole priesthood was the priesthood of death. Everything they were dealing with was with death. That's because when some people look at the Old Testament, they always ask you, what's all this blood in here? Why would God want all this blood? Now we can explain to them this was going on. This was And it's still hard to explain because they would be like, why would God do all of this? It's going to be a hard thing to go and explain to people, all right? But that whole thing was a ministration of death that he put Yasharala in because of their sinful ways. But even that ministration resembled the righteous ministration, which they're trying to show you that people think that's so glorious. Look at the Hebrews right now. Every day at the Passovers, at everything, they're all dressed up, thinking that that's the glory. That's the glory of the Most High. When that was the shadow of the things. That's not even the glorious things. All right? We're now moving forward to the actual glory of the things. All right? And in the ministration of righteousness, which is in the new covenant. All right? And that's what we're going to be dealing with this year. Continue.
Verse 10. Salakia. For even that which was made glorious had no glory in this respect, by reason of the glory that excelled. For if that which is done away with was glorious, much more that which remaineth is glorious. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech, and not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Yasha'Allah could not steadfastly look to the end of that which is abolished.
All right, so Moses, when he came from the mount, his face was shining, all right, and they represent that as the law. And Moses had to veil his face, all right, so that was the law, the light of the law. It was a representation of him veiling that law. And when he veiled that, the children of Yasharallah couldn't understand these carnal laws, all right, and that's why Moses was veiling his face, so they couldn't see the light, and that was a representation of them not being able to bear the light of the law. All right. Give us verse 14.
But their minds were blinded, for until this day remaineth the same veil untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Christ.
All right, so their minds were blinded. And it says, until this day, the same veil remains on the children of Yasharallah when they read the Old Testament. They don't understand what the Old Testament meant. They don't understand that all of these things was bad, was evil, was not good. All of them is thinking it's something glorious, something beautiful to remember. And, because us all coming from slaves, and we've seen that at the first time, it hits a part right there. But when we actually go into the history of our people, from the beginning, our whole culture, even the Hebrew culture, is slave culture, given to us by the Most High. We have slave culture now, given to us by the oppression, but that culture that the Most High gave to us was bondage culture. But it was a good bondage culture because it's coming from the Most High. But it's still bondage culture. We should not be wanting to deal with none of it. Just like how we're telling other people, oh, don't deal with the hog mog, the chitlets and all of that. It's the same way you should be looking at the Old Testament stuff. You should be looking at it that same way. That was the bondage stuff. That was when you're in bondage you were dealing. Yeah, it was sweet when you're in bondage. You know better now. You're dealing with alkaline. You're dealing with quinoa. You're dealing with all of these other things, chickpeas, all of that. You're not dealing with the old little pieces of meat that nobody wanted. That's how you're to look at the Old Testament. All right? And it show you in verse 14 that every time the children of Yasharallah read the Old Testament, that veil of not understanding what happened there is there. And they could only take away when dealing with Christ. All right? So give us verse 14 again.
But their minds were blinded, for until this day remaineth the same veil untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Christ. But even unto this day when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart.
All right, so even unto this day when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. Go on to Instagram. Go on to online. See, every time they read it, oh, you see, the Most High? Yeah, Moses, he was dealing with us. Yeah, this is how they read the stuff. The Most High is telling you the same veil is there. All of that on the Instagram. Yeah, the Most High, yeah, the fringes. They don't understand none of those things what was given to them. That they were of evil things. What really took place. What really was happening in that old contract. And even though they know about the New Testament and the new contract, the old one is so sweet that they sneak in all of the stuff of the old contract. All the feast days, everything comes into the new contract. And we act like we're dealing with the new contract. But we're not. Because according to Jeremiah 31, none of it's going to be the same as the old one.
So basically when they're giving the chitlins, they're like, oh, this is great. We got pig intestine right now. But, and now they don't realize even with the fringes, it's like, they think it's sweet, but it's like, why? You have to put fringes on your thing. Like now they have to put, it was actually burdensome.
It is burden because now every clothes you have to go get fringe, you have to go, you have to spend the money, you have to do all of that just to remember the law. Well, if you just have it in your heart, you don't need that. But that's what the Most High was, how he was dealing with them.
Joel 2:13, rend your hurt, not your garments.
Right?
Change.
That's the true representation of the thing. But they're so carnal on the, oh, you see my fringe gang, and then the fringe is blue. They don't even know about purple. You see what I'm saying? This is how it shows you they don't know. They're not really dealing with the law. All right. Were we finished there? Or 16? I'll give us 16.
Nevertheless, when it shall turn to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away.
All right. So when we turn to the Most High, the veil shall be taken. We've been heading towards the Most High for how long? Now he's showing us, hey, the stuff that you love, hey, they're out the window. You don't even need to deal with that no more. Okay? But you have to continue this way. Then you have to keep pressing. And then eventually, he's like, boom, you're getting this truth now. Damn, the whole thing was nothing to begin with. All right, continue for us.
Now the Most High is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Most High is, there is liberty. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Most High, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Most High.
All right. So with this contract, going back to the beginning, this contract was first given to Abraham. But Abraham's not the beginning of the scriptures or even the beginning of the righteous seed line of us. So why come this contract isn't given to anybody else? We're going to go to Deuteronomy 5:1.
Deuteronomy 5:1, the Ten Commandments. And Moses called all Yasha'Allah and said unto them, Hear, O Yasha'Allah, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your ears this day, that ye may learn them and keep and do them. The Most High our power made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Most High made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us, who are all of us here alive this day.
All right, so Moses tells them, yo, this contract, and this is key things that Moses is telling them, but because you don't understand contractual agreement, you don't understand this bad contract, your forefathers before you never dealt with. Enoch never dealt with it. Enoch didn't have to keep the Sabbath, didn't have to do none of those things that the Hebrews did. Fringes, none of that even existed in their times. Going all the way down until you reach Abraham. Abraham never even dealt with that. He just got the circumcision. It's Yasharallah that got your fringe, this, that, all of that. None of the forefathers before them had to deal with none of those things. Not one. Not one forefather. Not Noah, not nobody, not Shem, nobody.
1 John 5:3.
1 John 5:3.
And then get the Strongs on the word grievous.
All right, so it's showing us here that none of the people before Abraham dealt with that covenant that we had, that we so cherish. The customs that we so cherish. None of them before him dealt with that. Nobody did, but they're all found righteous. All right, continue.
You want me to get the John?
Oh, yeah.
1 John 5:3. For this is the love of the Most High, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. For whatsoever is
Strongs for grievous.
Strong's for grievous, G92926, from the same as G922, weighty, that is figuratively burdensome, grave, grievous, heavy, weightier.
All right, so his original commandments are not weighty, they're not heavy, all right? But they became heavy, all right? They didn't have these heavy, yo, let me go prepare for the ship. There was none of that in Abraham's time and before Abraham. There was none of those, yo, feast day, there was none of that. Fringes or, yo, let's do this with the calf, or there was none of those things there. There was no custom that you had to keep day to day. There was no lifestyle. You don't even know what they were doing day to day. What was Abraham doing day to day? There's not even written in there.
Living life.
All right, he's living life. He's living his life.
Living righteously.
Living righteously, and Joshua, he was helping people, he was bringing the poor in, he was doing all that.
You didn't need no law. Why do you need law when you're dealing with that? All right, we're going to go to 1 Timothy 1:5.
1 Timothy 1:5. Now the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart, and out of a good conscience, and of faith unfeigned, from which some, having swerved, have turned aside unto vain jangling, desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say nor wherefore they affirm. But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners.
All right, we're gonna stop right there real quick. All right, so it shows you right here. All right, from some swerved aside to vain jangling. All right, to rambling on. All right, desiring to be teachers of the law, because there's enough people on the Instagram outside. They all want to teach the law, but they don't understand neither what they say nor what if they confirm it. All right. But we know that the law is good, so we know that, okay, the Old Testament law can be good, all right? Yes, it can be. It's not, in its nature, it's not good, but it can be good if used lawfully. So if we use it and be like, yo, this represents the thing that the Most High is talking about, and we do it in righteousness, then that could be good. It could be used good, because eventually it will point you to the right way. Eventually you'll see the deeper thing in it, if you use it that way. If it doesn't bring you to this deep thing, the law is no good, because in its whole entirety, it's evil. It's only good if it points you to the right way. All right, give us verse 8 again.
But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for manslayers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine, according to the glorious gospel of the blessed power, which was committed to my trust.
All right, so the law was not made for righteous man. That's what comes our forefathers before Yasharallah never dealt with it. When did you hear Abraham having to be talked to like, Abraham, you went off? When did you hear Enoch, yo, Enoch is not behaving? Enoch, please, do the thing again. Enoch, I have to come and talk to you again, Enoch? When was that happening to the forefathers before Yasharallah? Yasharallah, from they came on the scene, they would never listen. None of the forefathers before them was dealing with like that. They all listened. Not one problem you heard of them. We go to Joseph, we go to anybody before them. They're all dealing with the Most High. You didn't have to continuously go and correct them. Every second, Yasharallah, correction, correction, correction. Please don't do this, please. They have to offer up incense. All of these things that Abraham them didn't need to do that, because they followed the Most High from the beginning. They didn't need laws and customs. Laws and customs are not a good thing. They came in because we're evil. And we needed to know how to operate. So when you have a child that doesn't operate, doesn't know that if I leave them at home, do your homework at that time, now you have to write it down. Do your homework at that time. Do this at that. Wash the dishes at 9 o'clock. You can wash the dishes anytime, but because you're unruly, someone has to tell you when you have to do them now. They can't trust you to do it on your own. I have to tell you when to, how to. That's the only thing the law was there for. When you don't need that, then you can operate and do whatever you want. You don't need to come to Shabbat. You don't need to wear fringes, because you're outside doing what you're supposed to do. When you're unruly, 9 o'clock bedtime. 8 o'clock, you're going to do this and that. 8:30, I'm going to make sure you do this and that. You could have all the day to assemble it your way and do it how you want. But because you're evil and you're not operating right, your parent has to now go and tell you the times you're going to do these things. And you got to do them. The child who's good, they can do whatever they want. They come in, they wash the dish whenever it's washed. They're doing their own thing. They don't have to be told. You know when to do it. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go to Saint Irenaeus against heresies, and you're gonna break down even more of the law being just a guide for Yasharallah, the Old Testament law.
Saint Irenaeus against heresies, Book 4, Chapter 16. Perfect righteousness was confirmed neither by circumcision nor by any other legal ceremonies. The Decalogue, however, was not cancelled by Christ, but is always in force. Men were never released from its commandments.
All right, and that's the Decalogue it's talking about, is the 10 Commandments. All right, they call it the Decalogue.
Verse 2. Moreover, all the rest of the multitude of those righteous men who lived before Abraham, and of those patriarchs who preceded Moses, were justified independently of the things above mentioned, and without the law of Moses.
All right, so it shows you here. All right, all the multitude of righteous men who lived before Abraham, those patriarchs who precede Moses, are justified independently of the law of Moses. They never did nothing in the law of Moses. They don't even know what a law of Moses is. All right, but they're found righteous. Continue for us. That's for anybody who thinks that us moving along, not dealing with the law of Moses, you can't be found holy, because there's plethora of holy people who don't even know what the law of Moses is. All right, continue for us.
As also Moses himself says to the people in Deuteronomy, the Most High your power formed the covenant in Horeb. The Most High formed not this covenant with your fathers, but for you. Deuteronomy 5:2.
All right, and we just read that. So this covenant is not for your fathers. And Yeshua was, oh yeah, it's me. He picked me. Yeah, he picked me. All right. This is the thing there. All right. So it was not for our forefathers, but it was for Yasharallah, the disobedient one that continuously disobeyed the Most High. Continue for us.
Verse 3. Why then did the Most High not from the covenant for the forefathers, or form the covenant for the forefathers? Because the law was not established for righteous men.
All right. The law was not established for righteous men. That's why he did not form it with our forefathers. We need to understand that. All right. Continue.
1 Timothy 1:9. But the righteous fathers had the meaning of the Decalogue written in their hearts and souls. That is, they loved the Most High who made them, and did no injury to their neighbor.
All right, so they had the 10 commandments in their heart. Abraham didn't need to follow any law of Moses, because all he was following was the 10 commandments. That's all you need to follow. The 10 commandments, that's it.
He's being kind to everybody.
The 10 commandments, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, because they didn't have that, other things had to be added. All right, continue for us.
There was therefore no occasion that they should be cautioned by prohibitory mandates, because they had the righteousness of the law in themselves. But when this righteousness and love to the Most High had passed into oblivion and become extinct in Egypt, the Most High did necessarily, because of his great goodwill to men, reveal himself by a voice, and led the people with power out of Egypt, in order that man might again become the disciple and follower of the Most High. And he afflicted those who were disobedient, that they should not contemn their Creator. And he fed them with manna, and that they might receive food for their souls. As also Moses says in Deuteronomy, and fed you with manna, which your forefathers did not know, that you might know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word of the Most High proceeding out of his mouth does man live. Deuteronomy 8:3. And it enjoined love to the Most High, and taught just dealing towards our neighbor, that we should neither be unjust nor unworthy of the Most High, who prepares man for his friendship through the medium of the Decalogue, and likewise for agreement with his neighbor, matters which did certainly profit man himself. The Most High, however, standing in no need of anything from man.
All right, so our friendship with the Most High is based on the 10 commandments. That's it. The 10 commandments. That's what brings you close to the Most High. And even if you look on the Kabbalah, things, they always have the 10 commandments right here by the heart. That's what brings you to the Most High. Not these other things, these other laws and all of that. It's the 10 commandments. The universal laws that everybody has to follow. All right, continue.
Verse 4. And therefore does the scripture say, these words the Most High spake to all the assembly of the children of Yasha'Allah in the mount. And he added no more. Deuteronomy 5:22. For as I have already observed, he stood in need of nothing from them. And again Moses says, and now, Yasha'Allah, what does the Most High your power require of you, but to fear the Most High your power, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Most High your power with all your heart, and with all your soul.
All right, so he's showing you, what does the Most High require of you? Do you think the Most High wants you to come to a feast day, to this, to that, all of that? He wants you to follow the 10 commandments. The 10 commandments just have to deal with your everyday dealings with people in the world. That's all he wants you to deal with. The Most High don't care about, oh, you make unleavened bread for the Most High. What's that unleavened bread going to do for the Most High? The Most High don't care about, oh, you know what, fringe for the Most High, oh, rep for the Most High this day, or you don't care about that. That doesn't have nothing to do with the Most High. All right, continue for us.
Now these things did indeed make man glorious, by supplying what was wanting to him, namely the friendship of the Most High. But they profited the Most High nothing, for the Most High did not at all stand in need of man's love.
All right, so these things does make man glorious, because you're like, oh, the Most High wants me to come. I'm coming here at the Shabbat for the Most High, and for the, everything was the Most High first. It gives you the glory. That's what it really gives, not the Most High. The Most High don't need nothing. He don't even need your love. He could raise up a stone, and the stone can love him and talk to him. All right, continue.
For the glory of the Most High was wanting to man, which he could obtain in no other way than by serving the Most High. And therefore Moses says to them again, choose life, that you may live, and your seed, to love the Most High your power, to hear his voice, to cleave unto him. For this is your life, and the length of your days. From Deuteronomy 30:19-20. Preparing man for this life, the Most High himself did speak in his own person to all alike the words of the Decalogue.
All right, so if you go into the Old Testament, when the Ten Commandments was given to us, the Most High spoke those out of his own words. So that was all he gave us. That was the only laws. And if we kept that, that would have been it. But we didn't. That's when Moses gave us the ordinances, the things that shadowed the law.
They which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance.
All right, so for this cause, Christ is the mediator of the new contract. By means of death, he died, and by that, redemption of the transgressions that were under the first contract is forgiven. All right, but only to they which might receive the promise of the eternal inheritance. Those who come to Christ. All right, they who are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. So that inheritance that we got through Jacob at that time, that was temporal inheritance. In the new covenant, we're getting the eternal inheritance, the eternal laws, the eternal things. All of those other ones was temporary things, temporary carnal things.
So, like how blood was spilled with Moses to bind them in a contract, just like how Christ's blood was spilled to bind us into the new covenant.
And in the old one, they had to do it all the time, and Christ only had to do it one time, because his is eternal. So his one bloodshedding is all you need for the whole thing. In the other one, it's temporal, so they always have to, okay, blood again, blood again, blood again. Now we can understand why the Most High, he was actually making them do this, because they weren't ready for the actual thing. So when we look at the scripture now, we can even be like, you know what, these things aren't injected in there. There's a reason why the Most High made them do these things. All right, they were doing that. The blood of the goats and sprinkling all of that, that was happening. Moses sprinkling it to seal the new covenant, that had to happen, because that was the carnal representation of what Christ would do. And that was needed for that time. And he was doing it under the guide of the Most High. So when the Most High commands it, that's a command, and that makes it okay. If he didn't command it, then that's not okay. But he commands it, and you're doing what God wants. So that makes it okay at that time.
And they keep on making offenses, and they have to go and kill a helpless animal all the time. And it's like, look what you, because you keep disobeying me, look what you have to do.
Sure.
Yeah, man. Wow.
All right. Continue for us, verse 16.
For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood, for when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats, with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the testament which the Most High hath enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. It was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these.
All right, so he said the patterns of the things in heaven was purified with the carnal blood from the animals. But the heavenly things have to be purified by better sacrifices. So that's why the Most High allowed that stuff in the Old Testament. Also, to add, it says that the testament, all right, is not, let me go to it, verse 16. Where a testament is, there must also be the necessity of death of the testator. For the testament is of force after men are dead. So we can now know when the New Testament was implemented. That's why Christ did it the night before he died. That's when the New Testament would have been instituted. So after Christ dies, now that when we have to look to how the disciples operated. What were they doing? What feast day were they keeping? What this were they keeping? Because at that moment now, the old things was done. All right, but a lot of people after that moment don't really look at Christ and what the people were doing. All right, that's what we're going to be going to in the following weeks. All right, so we're going to go into Justin Martyr, the early church father did. And we're going to take a look, just a next extensive look at the law practices under the old laws done away with.
Justin Martyr, the Apology, chapter 9. The law abrogated, the New Testament promised and given by the Most High. There will be no other power, O Trypho, nor was there from eternity any other existing. I thus addressed him. Quote, but he who made and disposed all this universe, nor do we think that there is one power for us, another for you, but that he alone is the power who led your fathers out from Egypt with a strong hand and an high arm. Nor have we trusted in any other, for there is no other, but in him who you also have trusted, the power of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob. But we do not trust through Moses or through the law, for then we would do the same as yourselves.
All right, so this is the Christians at those times. The early Christians tell them, we do not trust through the Moses or through the law, because if we do, then we become like you Hebrews, all right? These Hebrews that are not dealing with Christ. Continue for us.
But now, for I have read that there shall be a final law and a covenant that chiefest of all, which it is now incumbent on all men to observe, as many as are seeking after the inheritance of the Most High. For the law promulgated on Horeb is now old, and belongs to yourselves alone. But this is for all universally.
All right, and that's what Hebrews love to go aside. Oh, this is not for you. This ain't for you. This is not for you. And they're right. The Most High, it was only for Yasharallah. Yeah, they didn't know they were sinning. He's like, yo, this is not going to go out to the four corners. Because they're supposed to go out to the big kingdom of priests and go out to the four corners of the earth and do all of that. But all they were doing was stuck in Jerusalem. Most High didn't move them nowhere. They didn't go anywhere on any mission. How come when Christ came, that's when they're going out to Gentiles there? That was what we were supposed to be doing for a long time.
So they're really making a fool of themselves out there in all different ways.
Wow. They left out, but not by choice. They had to do some of them.
Yeah, Christ handpicked his disciples.
All right. So this is the Most High. This is how the Most High is so deep. He's able to trick you like that.
So what's it going to take to reach them to make them realize what they're doing?
Christ.
Christ, I know, yeah, Christ. But you don't want to hear about Christ.
That's all. That's all they could have.
They don't want to hear about all that.
All right. So the old covenant was for Yasharallah alone. They didn't go out the land. They didn't go visit nobody. When you read about the thing, everything was in the land. The Most High is like, yo, these people can't go out and research, go out and here and there for me. Are you crazy? Yo, everything you guys do, Jerusalem. Every feast day, Jerusalem. I don't want none of the Gentiles seeing what you guys are doing. The Gentiles never seen how they did the feast days, none of that, because they're always in the land. They built up a wall in the land. The Most High is like, close off these people, please.
Romans 11 and 8.
All right, go to Romans 11 and 8.
Romans 11, verse 8. According as it is written, the Most High hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear, unto this day.
All right, unto this day. All right, the law is only, that Old Testament stuff's only for Yasharallah. And then we woke up and then we're coming to the Christians, oh, you're not keeping things? You're not keeping the feast of the, you know? We didn't understand these things. You're going to your parents, you're going all over the place to try bringing them back into the bad contract, which is what people do. Oh, come be a rapper, come be a thing, come be a... That's why it's not working. Because they're looking at it like, oh, you want to do this, or you want to do this all the time? And we're in a time where people's hearts warming up. So those things are like, what purpose does that have to do with God? All right, so read for us again for the law promulgated.
For the law promulgated on Horeb is now old, and belongs to yourselves alone. But this is for all universally. Now law placed against law has abrogated that which is before it, and a covenant which comes after in like manner has put an end to the previous one. And an eternal and final law, namely, Christ has been given to us, and the covenant is trustworthy.
All right. So, law placed against law abrogates it. All right. I have abrogation down there. Just jump to it real quick. The definition of abrogate.
Abrogate. Past tense, abrogated. Past participle, abrogated. Repeal or do away with. A law, right, or formal agreement. Quote, a proposal to abrogate temporarily the right to strike. Synonyms, repudiate, revoke, repeal, rescind, overturn, overrule, override, do away with, annul, cancel, break off, invalidate, nullify, void, negate, dissolve, countermand, veto, declare, null and void, discontinue, range on, go back on, backtrack on, reverse, retract, remove, withdraw, abolish, put an end to, get rid of, suspend, end, stop, quash, scrap, disaffirm, avoid, vacate, vitiate, formulax, ditch, dump, chop, give something the chop, knock something on the head, rare, derencate. Quote, the government has formally abrogated the 1977 treaty. Antonyms, institute, introduce. Quote, we believe the board is abrogating its responsibilities to be shareholders. The origin is early 16th century from Latin abrogate, repealed, from the verb abrogare, from ab, away, from, plus regere, propose a law.
All right, so away from proposed law. All right, suspend, void, end, stop, squash, disaffirm, avoid, dump, ditch. This is what it means by the Old Covenant. All right, we are to dump that, ditch that, suspend, end, put a stop to all of that, dissolve. All right, when law placed against law, it dissolves the other one. It puts a stop to it. All right, so it stops here, this year, coming into this new year. All right. So continue where we left off there.
Christ has been given to us, and the covenant is trustworthy, after which there shall be no law, no commandment, no ordinance. Have you not read this which Isaiah says? Hearken unto me, my people, and ye kings, give ear unto me. For a law shall go forth from me, and my judgment shall be for a light to the nations. My righteousness approaches swiftly, and my salvation shall go forth. And nations shall trust in mine arm. And by Jeremiah concerning the same new covenant, he thus speaks. Behold, the days come, saith the Most High, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. If therefore the Most High proclaimed the new covenant, which was to be instituted, and this for a light of the nations, we see and are persuaded that men approach the Most High, leaving their idols and other unrighteousness, through the name of him who was crucified, Yeshua, the Christ, and abide by their confession even unto death, and maintain piety. Moreover, by the works and by the attendant miracles, it is possible for all to understand that he is the new law and the new covenant, and the expectation of those who out of every people wait for good things of the Most High. For the true spiritual Yasha'Allah and descendants of Judah, Jacob, Isaac, and Abraham, who in uncircumcision was approved of and blessed by the Most High on account of his faith, and called the father of many nations, are we who have been led to the Most High through this crucified Christ, as shall be demonstrated while we proceed.
All right, so for the true spiritual Israel, descendants of Judah, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, who didn't have circumcision. Those are the true Israelites. They didn't have circumcision. They had circumcision of the heart. All right, and those are our true forefathers that kept the true ways. All right, continue to chapter 12 for us.
Chapter 12, the Jews violate the eternal law and interpret ill that of Moses. Verse 2, also adduced another passage in which Isaiah exclaims, hear my words, and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people. Nations which know not thee shall call on thee. Peoples who know not thee shall escape to thee, because of thy power, the Holy One of Yasha'Allah, for he has glorified thee. This same law you have despised, and his new holy covenant you have slighted. And now you neither receive it nor repent of your evil deeds. For your ears are closed, your eyes are blinded, and the heart is hardened. Jeremiah has cried, yet not even then do you listen. The lawgiver is present, yet you do not see him. To the poor the gospel is preached, the blind see, yet you do not understand. Ye have now need of a second circumcision, though you glory greatly in the flesh. The new law requires you to keep perpetual Sabbath, and you, because you are idle for one day, suppose you are pious, not discerning why this has been commanded you. And if you eat unleavened bread, you say the will of the Most High has been fulfilled. The Most High, our power, does not take pleasure in such observances. If there is any perjured person or thief among you, let him cease to do so. If any adulterer, let him repent. Then he has kept the sweet and true Sabbaths of the Most High. If anyone has impure hands, let him wash and be pure.
All right. So it shows you. All right. The new covenant you have slighted. All right. They neither received it, the evil deeds. The lawgiver was present. They don't see him. People are getting their eyes given back, their sight given back to them, and Yasharallah still can't see. People are getting their eyesight back around them. Christ is giving eyesight back, and they can't even see in the scriptures. That's to show you how bad it is. Like the person here is giving sight back to the blind, and you're there and can't even see the scripture.
Because they have no compassion, and they don't realize, oh, you're healing the guy on the Sabbath. You know what I mean? Man.
This is how our people are. All right, you have now need of a second circumcision. All right, though you glory greatly in the flesh, because we're Hebrews in the flesh, forefathers, Jacob, Isaac. Yeah. We are the Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah.
All right, glory. Oh, this is not for you. This is not for you. It's for our people alone. The Most High knew they were going to do that. That's why they're out there. They don't know that yet. This is for you. This is for you alone, brother.
That's why the parable of the Samaritan is saying only the Samaritan helped the guy. All you guys didn't help him. Your own person.
Your own person.
But the other person that helped.
Our people is rotten, and we're going to understand that. Our people always been rotten. All right? We're going to go and really dissect our people as a nation. Because what the news and all of that even trying to do, they're trying to play a little pity party with Yasharallah. Like, oh, everything black on black crime, and, and people look at us badly, and why we look we're wicked. And we're going to go through the scripture to show you that the Most High adds, from the beginning of us, we've always been a wicked nation. Everything that we've been doing has been wicked. Even when we think we're dealing with righteousness, the Most High knew the whole time we're wicked. Everything, He never gave us nothing. All right?
Black people.
And that's why we have black people, all of that. The Most High is the one that told us you're not going to be known as this and you're called black people. You think it's them calling you black people? It's the Most High calling you black people.
Saying they're dark.
Dark people, okay? No light in them, not even dealing with Christ. And of course you're going to be called black people. They're not dealing with, they denied the sun. You're going to be labeled black people in the earth. And everybody in the earth going to know that you deny the sun and you're called black people.
You know, it's funny. I'm just thinking what popped into my head is the Mormons, or they say the Most High cursed us, and that's why they turn black.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just thinking of we're as black people.
In the black, we're called black people now.
But not how they have it, though. But yeah.
All right. We're going to continue to verse 14. All right.
Chapter 14. Righteousness is not placed in Jewish rites, but in the conversion of the heart given in baptism by Christ. By reason, therefore, of this laver of repentance and knowledge of the Most High, which has been ordained on account of the transgressions of the Most High's people, as Isaiah cries, "We have believed and testified that that very baptism which he announced is alone able to purify those who have repented. And this is the water of life. But the cisterns which ye have dug for yourselves are broken and profitless to you. For what is the use of that baptism which cleanses the flesh and body only? Baptism, Salakia, baptize the soul from wrath and from covetousness, from envy and from hatred, and lo, the body is pure. For this is the symbolic significance of unleavened bread, that you do not commit the old deeds of wicked leaven. But ye have understood all these things in a carnal sense, and you suppose it to be piety if you do such things, while your souls are filled with deceit, and in short, with every wickedness."
All right, so we have a bunch of Hebrews out there that understand, oh yeah, Feast of Unleavened Bread, they're out there, and then they're going to be like, yeah, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and then 2 seconds later, they're cussing out and doing all of these other things. And like, yeah, the Most High is going to kill half of these jakes out here, and yo, death to the dead, and then they're cussing and their stuff, and right after you're saying you're dealing with the Most High.
And remember when we were at my house that day, I showed you that guy's thread, and he was like saying the New Testament's nonsense.
Yeah.
I teach the temple law, and he's, and like I was reading the other day, and it's like him and his wife were like, "Who's ready to get cut? You think you guys are gonna come here and talk about your, and it's just like, whoa, like this is not. It's crazy, yeah.
Crazy. All right, continue for us.
Accordingly, also, after the 7 days of eating unleavened bread, the Most High commanded them to mingle new leaven, that is, the performance of other works, and not the imitation of old and evil works. And because this is what this new lawgiver demands of you, I shall again refer to the words which have been quoted by me, and to others also which have been passed over. They are related by Isaiah to the following effect: "Hearken to me, and your soul shall live, and I will make with you an everlasting covenant, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness of the people, a leader and a commander to the nations. Nations which knew not thee shall call on thee, and people who know not thee shall escape unto thee, because of thy power, the holy power of Israel. For he has glorified thee. Seek ye the Most High, and when you find him, call on him, so long as he may be nigh unto you. Let the wicked forsake his ways, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Most High, and he will obtain mercy, because he will abundantly pardon your sins. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return until it shall accomplish all that I desired. And I shall make a commandment, and I shall make my commandments prosperous. For ye shall go out with joy, and be taught with gladness. For the mountains and the hills shall leap while they expect you, and all the trees of the field shall applaud with their branches. And instead of the thorn shall come the cypress, and instead of the briar shall come the myrtle. And the Most High shall be for a name, and for an everlasting sign. And he shall not fail. Of these and such like words, written by the prophets, O Trypho, said I, some have reference to the first advent of Christ, in which he is preached as inglorious, obscure, and of mortal appearance, but others in reference to his second advent, when he shall appear in glory and above the clouds. And your nation shall see and know him when they have pierced, as Hosea, one of the 12 prophets, and Daniel foretold.
All right. So we're not ready to go to the next part. We're just going to go and just to be clear on the laws given in the new contract. All right. So we're going to go to John 13 and 31. And there's a new commandment given in the contract. All right. So we're at John 13 and 31.
John 13 and 31. Therefore, when he was gone out, Yeshua said, Now is the Son of Man glorified, and the Most High glorified in him. If the Most High be glorified in him, the Most High shall also glorify him in himself, and shall straightway glorify him. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You shall seek me, and as I said unto the Jews, Whither I go ye cannot come. So now I say unto you, A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. as I have loved you, that ye also one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another.
All right, so one of the laws under the new contract is very simple. Love one another. The love you show each other, you follow this law, I know that this makes you a disciple. That's the one stipulation. You gotta love your brother with all your heart. You do that under this contract, you're a disciple according to Christ. All right? In the ways you operate. We're going to go to our next one. We're going to go to 1 John 2 and 7.
1 John 2 and 7, the new commandment. Brethren, I write no new commandment unto you, but an old commandment which ye had from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which ye have heard from the beginning. Again, a new commandment I write unto you, which thing is true in him and in you, because the darkness is past, and the true light now shineth. He that saith he is in the light, and hateth his brother, is in darkness even until now. He that loveth his brother abideth in the light, and there is none occasion of stumbling in him. But he that hateth his brother is in darkness, and walketh in darkness, and knoweth not whither he goeth, because the darkness has blinded his eyes.
All right, so Christ is making it very clear. In this new covenant, the biggest thing is to love your brother. In the old covenant, it was all this fringes, this, that. The biggest thing Christ is saying, love your brother like you love yourself. This is what you should be working on. This is what you should be doing daily. That's the focus, not all these other things there. Love your brother as you love yourself. Everything else will be completed. That's the focus. That's the study. It's all about how we're dealing with one another. That's the focus. That's what we should be dealing with. None of the Old Testament, don't wear this or don't mix two things with. It's none of that. Deal in this covenant, Christ is saying, deal with each other in love. That's the biggest commandment there. We go to the last scripture here. All right? That's Matthew 22:34.
The book of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 34, the great commandment. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yeshua said unto him, Thou shalt love the Most High thy power with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.
All right? So in this covenant, love the Most High with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, before anything else. Love your neighbor as yourself. You do these two things, the whole 10 is complete, and that's how easy this keeping the law in the New Testament is. That's it. Those two things there. Keeps you keeping the 10. And the 10 is all you need to keep. Which has thou shalt not kill in there. So that has the food law in there as well, because it's an action, all right? So all you have to do is keep the 10 commandments. That's it. All right, so with that being said, we went through an extensive lesson today. We're going to go to Philippians 4 and 8 to close it out.
Philippians 4 and 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the Most High power of peace shall be with you.
All right, so in this report, we went through an extensive study of the old covenant coming into the new covenant. We looked at exactly what the old covenant is and how it was implemented to us and the changes that took place and what they represented going on, that they were shadow laws. All right, they weren't the actual thing. They were the image of the thing. They were just signs. It's like seeing the M of McDonald's and you go over there. Are you there for the M or are you there for the McDonald's? You're not there for the sign. The sign just brought you to the destination. All right, that's all the Old Testament was. All right, in the New Covenant, all of those things that were temporal, that were evil things that the Most High gave us because we broke the initial contract and breached the contract. Moses and the Most High, because Moses was dealing with the Most High, mediating the contract. They worked together a sketchy contract for Yasharallah, and they didn't know because they didn't have the understanding of contractual law and understanding what they're going into. Same thing we see with our people today. We're dealing with contracts in the music business, the sports business, even regular business.
Telephones.
All right? In this lesson we went, and now we fully understand that coming into the new covenant, all the things of the Old Testament, which were temporal, shadow things, error of things, is all gone. And all we're dealing with is the 10 Commandments. But moving forward there, them as a church incorporated new things. Feast days, this, all of these things we're going to be taking a look at and understanding going forward from here. This was just the layout of truly understanding what the new covenant is and all it entails. And moving forward from here, we'll be rolling out all the things that entail the new covenant and dealing with the new covenant from now on and moving far from the old covenant and understanding what it was there for, but no more dealing with it in the way we used to. All right, so with that being said, we want to say all praises be unto the Most High Almighty Ahaya. This is the SC Community Church of Christ. My name is Brother Shamar.
My name is Brother Jackson.
And enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Kwam Yasharallah.
Kwam Yasharallah.